Okay, and welcome. Before we begin any official business, I'd like to acknowledge that we are in the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples in the Williams and Huron-Robinson Treaties area. We recognize the long history of First Nations and Métis people on this land and show respect to them today. We acknowledge our neighbors, the Wata Mohawks, and the First Nations of Moose Deer, Shawniga, Wasasking, Magnetawan, Henley Inlet, Nipissing, and Dokis. And I'd like to take this opportunity to offer a special welcome to our newest member of the senior management team, Forrest Pangra, who's joining us. I think you're going to see him on screen in a minute. He's our new Director of Strategic Initiatives, reporting to our CAO, Jason. So, Forrest, do you want to say a couple words?
Thank you, Mayor McDermott. I appreciate the kind words. Very much looking forward to getting going and pushing forward with some pretty neat initiatives for the township. Modernization is something of my specialty, and looking forward to kind of progressing through these various milestones and objectives. None of it comes easy, none of it comes quick, and we'll work through it together and modernize as per the report that you all will have received some months ago. So thank you.
Thank you very much, and welcome, Forrest. The other quick thing I want to remind everybody about is that I hope we will see all of staff this Thursday at the barbecue that council is hosting, starting at noon in the pavilion by the arena. We've got many, many new staff faces, so this is an opportunity to meet them and get to know them. So with that, I will ask for approval of the agenda with one addendum item, which is correspondence related to item 8B, the short-term rentals. Other than that, could I have approval of the agenda? All in favor?
You said 6:15?
Thank you. Have we lost Rod and we don't have Terry?
We can do, let's do 5:45. I'll let everyone know. Okay?
Can somebody has background noise.
Talk to you then. Bye.
Is it Art? Might be you, Art. Little green box goes around. Oh, there's Terry. And we do not appear to have Councillor Osborne anymore.
Could have been on the telephone.
Okay. So, and is there any pecuniary interest or general nature of thereof to declare? None being called, we'll move on to the adoption of the minutes. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the minutes of the regular and closed session meetings of council held on June 6th, 2022 as circulated. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move that motion, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Coles?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor of adopting the minutes? Thank you. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn the regular meeting to hold a public meeting for the following matters. Zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2022-0008-H for Chernin. Could I have a motion from Councillor Fellner?
So moved.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Collins.
I'll second your motion.
All in favor of moving into public meeting? Thank you. Council will now hold a public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment application. In accordance with the Planning Act, Council will consider all matters placed before it prior to passing a zoning bylaw. Anyone wishing to receive notice of the passing of a zoning bylaw amendment who has not submitted such a request in writing should provide their full name and address to the clerk. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin, The person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of council to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. The purpose of zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2022-0008-H for Chernin is to permit a 125 square meter accessory building with a secondary unit within it. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property and by regular mail on May 31st, 2022. Notice was therefore considered to be provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has the township received any correspondence with respect to this application?
No correspondence has been received.
And has anyone registered to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application?
No one has registered to speak to this application.
Does council have any questions? I believe Taylor will be taking these questions. I see no questions. Thank you. So council will now close the public meeting and reconvene the regular meeting. I have a motion that the public meeting held for the following matters is hereby closed and the regular meeting is hereby reconvened. Could I have a motion from Councillor Finson?
I so move.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Moffat.
I'll second that motion, Mayor.
All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that bylaw number 2022-073, being a bylaw to amend Township of Seguin zoning bylaw number 2006-125, property roll number 4903-010-009-02010, application number R 2022-0008-H for Chernin at 970B Highway 141 is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion to this effect from Councillor Fellner? He's not there anymore. How about we go to Councillor Collins?
I also move your motion, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Finson.
I'll second that.
All in favor? We still okay with quorum? Okay. So I believe Lauren in. Is Lauren going to speak to these? Council will now consider the following road allowance applications. Shore Road Allowance application number RAS-2021-0003-F for Halleck on Rankin Lake, bylaw number 2022-054. Shore Road Allowance application number RAS 2020-0011-H for Lesofsky, Lake Rosso for bylaw number 2022-050, and Concession Road Allowance application number RAC 2020-0012-H for Lesofsky, bylaw number 2022-051. Have any objections been received related to these applications?
No written objections have been received related to these applications.
Has anyone registered to speak to these applications?
No one has registered to speak to these applications.
Lauren, do you have anything to add about these three?
Thank you, Worship. You'll notice the second Shore Road Allowance, Lebowski, it's the same owners for the Concession Road Allowance. Two different properties, but same owners. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have questions on any three of the applications.
Are there any questions from council? No? So we move on. Okay, Terry's back? Okay. I have a motion that bylaw number 2022-054, being a bylaw to close, stop up and sell a portion of the original shore road allowance, application number RAS 2021-0003-F for Halleck, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat
I so move that motion, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Coles?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Thank you, and that's carried. But one at a time, right? Okay, I have motion that bylaw number 2022-050, being a bylaw to close, stop up and sell a portion of the original shore road allowance, application number RAS 2020-0011-H for Zlowski, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Fellner
So moved.
and seconded by Councillor Collins?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Thank you, and that's carried. And I have a motion that bylaw number 2022-051, being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell a portion of the original concession road allowance, application number RAC 2020-0012-H for Lesofsky, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Finson
I so move.
and seconded by Councillor Moffat?
I'll second that motion, Mayor.
All in favor? Thank you. So we're moving into delegations. Is Mr. Sale here?
Actually, it will be Dr. Neil Hutchinson.
Oh, okay.
He's a board
Okay. Dr. Neil Hutchison.
member.
Good evening, Mr. Hutchison,
Oh, good evening. Good to see
And
you,
wel-
everybody.
and welcome.
Thank-
So Dr. Hutchison is with us as a board member from the Muskoka Watershed Council, and I will remind you that each delegation is 10 minutes. So we have the full copy of your presentation in our board package.
Okay, I will share my screen here and bring it up so I can follow it as well. Excuse me just for a sec. Here we go. Okay, share my screen. There, can people see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Yes, okay, thanks. Thanks for your time and you probably know much about the Watershed Council already, but we've been around for 20 years and we just thought it was good if all of our municipalities got reacquainted with who we are and what we do. Just in the Muskoka River watershed, there are 4 upper tier municipalities, 13 lower tier municipalities, and the District of Muskoka itself also includes parts of the Black River watershed. And we thank Seguin Council for joining us and listening in, because of course you occupy the headwaters of Lake Joseph and Lake Rosso. Our mission really is quite simply is to challenge and champion watershed health, to take a series of different steps to make sure that our water quality is corrected, which also includes protecting the terrestrial, the forest areas, recognizing that they give a lot of benefit to all of us, whether it's environmental protection, the key to our economy, the intrinsic values that we see from clean water. We prepare stewardship materials and position papers on climate change or road salt or things that we see as threats or things that we need to enhance. We have a large group of volunteer scientists, very fortunate, who actually spend their time putting together materials with that and our regular members. We sponsor Love Your Lake programs with our lake associations, with the 19 lakes participating, 6,000 shoreline properties, and to renaturalize, provide help for renaturalizing areas that may have been damaged or overzealously groomed at one point. And education and outreach. Over the years, we've sponsored 6 stewardship conferences and 5 scientific conferences. And most of our materials come from small grants and from fundraising. And of course, the area of interest, as I said, we have District of Muskoka includes the Black River watersheds and areas of the coastal Georgian Bay. But of course, we have your Township of Seguin up here in our headwater areas of 2 of our very important lakes, and certainly Lake Joseph probably are the cleanest lake in Muskoka. But we all recognize the importance of water quality and the environment to our economy. We have a $500 million tourism economy each year, split between food and beverages and retail, entertainment and recreation, all the usual things, resorts, accommodation, and 3.2 million person visits annually, mostly, as we'll point out, coming to see outdoor and sporting activities or parks, sightseeing, areas where, in fact, the environment is critical to attracting these people and their economic impact. We operate as 2 members from Muskoka District Council and volunteer members of a board of about 8 or 9 of us, currently chaired by Dr. Peter Sale, a retired professor from University of Windsor. And then lots of experienced scientists, but also citizens with an interest in water quality and the environment. Some of our current initiatives, what we really like to talk about today is integrated watershed management. This is a function of not just looking at one value or one concern when a development application comes in or an official plan is being produced, but trying to balance the interests of the economy, the interests of society, just in the basic merits that we get from our watershed, and then the environment as its own unit, considering the environment as its own intrinsic value outside of the value it may provide to our economy and our society, and trying to integrate these considerations into the decisions that we make. This has been formulated over the last couple of years. The Muskoka Watershed Advisory Group was struck as a response to the big floods we had in 2019 and partitioned about 14 research projects of what we could do to improve our water management. One of the recommendations was integrated watershed management. On our website, you'll find the paper that's produced about why we think this is important. This is really our greatest ask of your council and other councils as members of our watershed, is that we're going to be looking out for a citizens advisory committee for this, the integrated watershed plan. And we are really requesting that every municipality provide a member, a volunteer from council or an interested local person to sit with the watershed council on the integrated watershed management committee, it's called the Community Round Table. So we'd encourage you to get involved and contact us through our website or through myself if you do have interest. And we'd certainly encourage interest in the integrated watershed management, the Community Round Table. This is the draft membership model. Just again, we have a representation from lake associations, resorts, indigenous groups, I think there's 5 indigenous members on the Community Round Table. Of course, municipal and provincial governments, construction sector, the water power sector, and a central team managing the input and facilitating the input from these various groups. So it's really a forum for community engagement, moving watershed management away from a strictly government responsibility and bringing more of a community insight and hopefully a wider perspective of interests and attributes into the water management. But as I said, we're very much interested in municipal engagement, and certainly Seguin Township would be part of that. The other program we're doing now in 2019, we've certainly had a proliferation of nuisance algal blooms in Muskoka in the last 10 years, in lakes with humans on them and lakes with no humans on them, or very few humans. So there's a larger processes at work stimulating algal blooms. It's quite likely something to do with our changing climate. But we have come up with a standard method by which lake groups and individual citizens can measure and quantify the total abundance of algae in the water, as well as the abundance of the harmful blue-green algae that give us the blooms that we don't like. And so we've now produced a manual on how to do it. And we've had 5 participants, 5 lake associations, including the MLA, piloting our methods and putting results together from last year. We're just drafting the report now. And so we're opening it up to other lake associations and other groups in 2022 who are interested in monitoring the onset and the seasonal progression of algae in their own lakes. And this is all available through our website. Other things, of course, are the Watershed Report Card, which is the first big initiative we did. We've done about 5 or 6 of these now, looking at the stressors, the health indicators in our watershed, whether they're phosphorus or calcium levels or invertebrate bugs or intact forest, and then also coming up with an analysis of the threats, climate change, species at risk, these type of things, habitat fragmentation. And so we produce one of these every 5 years as an index of how well we're doing. And of course, the Love Your Lake, which is bringing usually environmental students out to help people improve their shoreline and naturalize their shoreline, and focusing on native species and the type of things that improve habitat. Also, manuals on how to kind of lessen your footprint in cottage country. We provide input to municipal official plan recommendations just on a voluntary basis. The Watershed Council is not a governing body. It is an advisory body, a citizens group, but we do have representatives from Muskoka Council on it. So that's all really I want to tell you, just to kind of refamiliarize you with what we're doing in Muskoka on the Watershed Council, encouraging you to get involved, and especially with the community roundtable as part of the Integrated Watershed Management Initiative. So I thank you for your attention, and if we have time for any questions, I'd be pleased to take some.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hutchison. I see a question from Councillor Moffat.
Well, it's kind of a question and kind of a comment. Obviously, I am the council representative on the Muskoka Watershed Council. I attend as many of the meetings as possible. Sometimes it's a bit of a challenge. But the one thing that I've found in my term here is that we seem to be missing the staff connection to the Muskoka Watershed Council. And I know I spoke to Jason earlier when we were speaking about our new addition for us today. And I think I'm hopeful that at some point we can add a staff representative to connect Muskoka Watershed Council and Seguin, and hopefully it would be Forrest. I know Jason's got many initiatives and plans on his table already for him, but I'm hopeful that we can at least try to get a staff connection, because it is there's a lot of things going on. It's similar to our ice cap work. So there is some synergies with respect to that. So I'll leave it at that, and hopefully Jason will be able to find a little bit of room in Forrest's day. Thanks.
Yeah, Councillor Moffat, if I may respond, is there anything we could do to make participation easier, like meeting times or such, or?
It's not about meeting times. When you work full time, it's hard to squeeze all the extra minutes stuff into the day. So I try to get to as many as possible, but it's there's just a lot of them right now. Right. So
thank you very much.
And Neil, in terms of, I think that's where a staff member would help, where you can sort of, someone can attend as opposed to, just one person being at the wheel. So thanks.
Thank you very much. And I think it's probably appropriate that a staff person be chosen in the short term, because we're in a municipal election year. It is probably best that at this stage in time, we work with Jason and our CAO to have a staff representative, because I do think that the Muskoka Watershed Council does important work and we need to stay connected. So I will hand that over to our CAO to negotiate with a staff member. And it's my hope too, that with a new council, we would have a counselor who would be willing to stand and attend as many meetings as possible. But I appreciate your presentation, Dr. Hutchison, and all the work you do. It's important not only to where we live and swim and play, but to our economy, and it's our future.
Thank you. And having worked with your council in the past, I really appreciate the work that you're doing on your lake management things, initiatives as well. So keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. And thank you for
Thank you.
coming tonight.
Okay, bye now.
Bye-bye. So next we have James Cox from the West Prairie Sound Economic Development Collaborative. James, you have a midterm update for us, and I'll just remind you that you have a 10-minute slot as a delegation to council. We have your presentation in our council package.
Thank you very much. If you'll give me one moment, I will share my screen so I can walk everyone through it and go. So thank you very much, Your Worship and members of council, for the opportunity to address you tonight and bring everyone up to speed on the work that we've been doing at the West Prairie Sound Economic Development Collaborative over the past 18 months. The Prairie Sound Economic Development Collaborative operates on a 3-year term. So we're just at the 18-month milestone right now, halfway through our term. So it's an excellent time to take the opportunity to reconnect with our member municipalities and assess what we've done to date and where we're going from here. So to refresh everyone's memory, the West Prairie Sound Economic Development Collaborative consists of the 7 municipalities in West Prairie Sound District that have worked together cooperatively with a mandate to drive economic development in the region and build on the region's economic strengths to both make life easier and work with our existing businesses to help them expand and grow in our area, and also attract new investment to this area. Working together as a region, as the West Prairie Sound collectively is really vital for us being able to get on the radar of firms that are looking to locate in our area or invest in our area and market really our strengths together as a region. So as council's aware, our work operates, the West Prairie Sound Economic Development Collaborative is primarily supported at the moment through a grant from FedNor through their Community Investment in Northern Ontario program. And the current term of our operation started in December of 2020 and runs through until December of 2023. So we're right at the halfway point right now. So it's a good time to do outreach to our members and talk about what our priorities have been to date so far. So we have 4 key areas that we focus on, and I'm going to go through each one of them in turn in terms of discussing what we've done, what we're planning on doing, and some of the results that we've seen. Our primary focus has been on business retention and expansion. Broadly speaking, we aim to reach out to the existing businesses within West Prairie Sound and understand their operations, identify if there's any challenges that they're facing, any red flag issues that may be affecting their ability to do business, and then work with them to try and offer support, to connect them to funding, or generally help them address the challenges that they're facing. And so we primarily do this through our business retention and expansion surveying program, where we actually go out and do in-person visits to our business community. We've conducted 134 of these visits since since late 2020. And we're aiming to continue working on this project and getting out as far as we can to our businesses in our area over the rest of 2022. Bringing forward a final report that has our findings from our BRNE survey and recommendations, what we've done to address any challenges that we've identified, and recommendations for the future in January of next year. Now, I will say that Seguin Township has been very proactive in referring their business community to our office here, connecting myself with the many business owners, many innovative business owners that exist within Seguin, out at the Airport Business Park and some of the other communities throughout Seguin. And those sorts of referrals are really valuable for us in terms of getting out to the people that really would benefit from having a connection to our regional economic development effort. And so I would encourage all members of council that if you're aware of a business or an investor or someone who's interested in the area that might benefit from a connection to our office, to please make that referral, because that is how we stay informed about what's going on in our area. Our second element of our second priority is the question of development readiness. So ensuring that our area is ready to welcome investment when it does come. So this primarily consists of working with municipalities and businesses to ensure that everyone has if someone's coming to invest in our area and they're looking to construct a building for their business, or they're looking to put an expansion on their current facility, we really try to facilitate to ensure that they fully understand what the process is, so that everyone has common expectations of what it's going to take to do business in West Prairie Sound. And so in this area, we work very closely with municipal staff. Again, the staff in Seguin have been phenomenally helpful in working with our office and with the business owners out there that we deal with, in terms of ensuring that everyone's on the same page and that the process goes as smoothly as possible. Our third priority, and this is the one that we're going to be moving to focus on more in the next 18 months, is investment attraction. So this is what a lot of people think of traditionally when they think of economic development, essentially going out and attracting new business and new investment to West Prairie Sound. So our role in this is working, providing a single point of contact for new business inquiries. So anyone who is expressing interest in the area, we try to connect with them and make it as easy as possible for them to get a familiarization with the area. We conduct tours of the area. We call them FAM tours, familiarization tours, where we'll meet with a prospective business owner. If they're able to come to the area, we will introduce them to municipal staff. We'll introduce them to funding agencies that might be relevant for the project that they're proposing. We will tour them around our area, show them potential properties that we think might be a good fit for their investment. And again, make it as easy as possible, put our best foot forward, and make it as easy as possible for them to make the decision to locate here. So as I note here, we've had 34 unsolicited inquiries over the past year. We haven't been proactively soliciting interest in the area. It's about being ready to welcome investment when it comes. And of those inquiries, we've been able to translate 11 of them into in-person FAM tours, and 6 of those have invested in property, made a commitment to relocate their business here over the past year. So in terms of the sort of average in economic development, that's I think been quite a successful initiative. And the final element is regional engagement. So as I'm sure council is aware, there are a number of different agencies that have an impact on economic development in our area. When you consider all of our member municipalities, our counterparts at federal and provincial ministries that are responsible for economic development. Other groups like our chambers of commerce, our downtown business associations, the regional tourism organization, post-secondary partners like Canada or College. When you consider all of these different groups, and there's about 45 of them that have some involvement in economic development in our area, and they all have a different area of focus, different area of specialty. And so it can be very challenging for a business to navigate that ecosystem. So we essentially act as guides. We will help them connect to the right support for their business. But we also regularly meet with all of these different agencies to ensure that our efforts in terms of promoting the area as a destination for business are coordinated, that they're connected, and that if there are opportunities for partnership or collaboration, then we're pursuing those as much as possible. So over the next 18 months, our goal is to move towards more proactive investment attractions. So we, right now, I think we're at a pretty good spot in terms of our ability to welcome investment to the area, but we want to be more proactive in reaching out and attracting attention to our area. So this is going to be driven by our analysis of the industry mix in our region. We're right now doing the analysis to go through all the data that we've collected over the past year to really understand what the gaps in our economy are, if there are specific sorts of businesses that we're missing, where there's sort of low-hanging fruit, where there's an opportunity for someone to come in and invest. And then we're going to specifically go after and attract those sorts of businesses to the area. We're also aiming to move all of our investment attraction activities, our FAM tours, all of that outreach that we do. We're aiming to move that entirely online so that we can connect with people in a more flexible way. I already mentioned we are anticipating completing our BR&E program by January of next year. And we're also working right now on a proposed community improvement plan event where we would be bringing together a collection of experts on community improvement planning from different municipalities and different organizations across our province to really look at some of the policy tools that we have available to us as municipalities that can help to mitigate and address the housing and workforce crisis that we have in our area right now. That concludes my very brief overview of our activities over the past 18 months. I thank council for their time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that they may have at this point.
Thank you very much, James. I see a question from Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess the one thing that I am surprised is not on future activities is funding past 2023. You know, business doesn't stop. All the hard work and efforts you've done over the last 18 months, you know, if there's a gap or something, so maybe you don't have an answer, but I'm wondering if there is a plan that makes this train keep going past December 2023. Otherwise, we just drop off a cliff. And I see, I see maybe someone else will answer that question. Thank you.
Yeah, the CAO will take that. This 3-year funding window has been with us for many, many years.
Thank you, Worship, and it's a great question, Councillor Moffat, and I'm happy to say that that with James's participation, the area CAOs are having these very discussions at this time. We recognize that a 3-year window is a short window when you talk about long-term business retention and expansion and building those relationships. So we are exploring a variety of options on how best to secure long-term funding and how to create continuity for the years to come. And that is going to come back to the Economic Development Collaborative in the near future. I don't have a specific timeline I can offer, but it will come soon.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, James. Good afternoon, James. You hear me?
Oh, yeah, yes.
Oh, okay. You mentioned, I have particular interest in this because through another council, I was the chair of the Economic Development Committee. So I have a lot of interest in this file. You mentioned there was 34 unsolicited inquiries. These are people that I guess called up, thinking about relocating or setting up, that you dealt with and toured. And that your future goal is to do some unsolicited, proactive solicitation in sector-specific marketing. Can you elaborate which sectors would be suitable or that you feel you would be going after in this area? And before I let you answer that, I'm a little cautious when it comes to outside experts, because we had a consultant one time back, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago in Prairie Sound that was going to make, he had the world by the tail. He was going to make Prairie Sound area a data farm, and he's going to have high-speed internet flashing everywhere, and it's going to be a huge data farm he was going to set up, and that was all pretty much smoke and mirrors. So I'm a little bit hesitant about consultants. They'll tell you what you want to hear. But if you wouldn't mind answering questions as to what sector specific and how you go about that. Thanks.
Through you, your worship. It's a great question. As I mentioned in my presentation, a lot of our referrals come to us through, a lot of the leads that we wind up pursuing come to us through referrals. So they'll be from either a member of the public, a member of council, or another one of our other agencies. We get a lot of referrals from the provincial ministries about businesses that are looking to locate here. So in terms of our desire to do proactive marketing, as I mentioned, we're right in the middle right now of going through all the data that we've got from the past year to identify what those specific gaps in our economy would be. I will say that I think that the tourism sector is one area that where there are noticeable gaps in terms of the experience and the tourism infrastructure that exist within our area, that I think that there'd be an opportunity to attract some investment in. I also think that this area has a lot of specialized manufacturing. We certainly look at some of the investments in, clean energy and things like that that have been taking place up in the Parry Sound Area Industrial Park. And I think that there's an opportunity to work with some of those businesses to help attract other environmentally conscious business in the area. So I don't have a detailed answer at this point because we're still in the midst of that data analysis, but those are the two key directions that sort of the preliminary preliminary review of the data has identified.
Okay, thank you. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. I think your work is important, and we like to see new businesses here. We really need places for all those new businesses employees to sleep. So
Yes.
I know that's a stumbling block for many of us. So we're working with you and for you on that front. So thank you very much for the update and for the work you do.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to staff reports. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the staff reports as presented on the agenda for the June 20th, 2022 meeting of council. Could I have a motion by Councillor Finson?
I so move that motion.
And seconded by Councillor Moffat.
I'll second that motion, Mayor.
All in favor? Thank you. So I will turn it over to Michelle, I believe. Yes. You have a very comprehensive financial update in your package, but Michelle can share the highlights with us.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, this is our first financial update of the year. It's not necessarily a good news story, but what it does do is it reflects the ongoing economic conditions that we're seeing actually around the world. Some of the reports that you're going to see later tonight from Public Works, for example, with the higher costs for our winter sand and for a few of our other commodities, we're starting to see that pressure here in the financial update. What it is it's a heads up for council, and it's a challenge for staff to start trying to find other areas where we can find some operational savings and efficiencies to offset some of these higher costs.
Are there any questions for Michelle? It's pretty, Councillor Moffat.
Yeah, just a quick question, Michelle. Thank you, Mayor. In terms of the tax arrears, I know the dollar and percentage is not too different from the prior year, but I'm just wondering if you're hearing anything, at the phone calls, or if there's any sort of, noise with regards to that aspect.
No, actually, we're not. Usually we hear a lot when we send the tax bills out, and I can tell you the phones were actually pretty quiet this year. So no, we're not seeing a lot of pressure or pushback.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Michelle. I think you've explained where we could maybe get some of this money in your report, and we all have to be prudent. We're all experiencing gas sticker shock and everywhere else. So thank you for the report, and I appreciate you staying on top of it. Thank you. So now we are going to look to Taylor and Valerie together, I believe. There's Taylor. You have a very comprehensive report recommending that we be transparent and go out for public consultation to collect some hard data on the public information on short-term rentals. So Taylor, do you want to speak to it? And there's Valerie as well.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Your Worship. The current stance on short-term rentals is that they're not permitted. That isn't proposed to change tonight. So that's the beginning of the report, the part in italics. That's the current direction. Due to what's occurred in Oro Medonte, and just to ensure full transparency, staff were of the opinion that it might be wise to have renewed public engagement to better detail what the public's key concerns were. Oro did just lose an OLT case where they were trying to restrict these cases. And I also believe there's been another recent appeal in Ottawa. So I think we're just looking to be as best prepared as we can be. The Oro case was appealed to a divisional court. That would be nice to know what will happen there. But regardless, I think staff would like the township be in a position we are prepared versus reacting should that not go in Oro's favor. We're here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess not necessarily a question, but I don't think further public input is going to change the, we look at the results 33, 33, and 33 type of thing. I think it's important that we get a better understanding of the municipal or legal landscape without input. Like, I don't think that requires input from the public. And I think it's certainly evolving regularly, but I don't think going out to the public, and especially those that are not resident in the township of Seguin, and providing input, it does a disservice to our residents who pay our bills. So I think my preference would be I agree with education on the website that we suggested, but not about options, but more about education about what's happening, and collect information in connection with, the court cases, the legal system, as well as what other neighboring municipalities or area municipalities are doing. And then again, I recognize it may take a follow-up after that, but I think we should be doing that and not engaging in the public on this, because I think our bylaw is our bylaw and we should be enforcing it as we've done for the last 2 years or thereabouts. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to remind everybody that bylaw is being enforced as best we can on a daily or weekly basis with letters going out. This is recognizing that public input, it may be necessary. The world has certainly changed post-COVID, and the world is dealing with rental properties. And I do know that staff is collecting some of the information you're requesting, Councillor Moffat. We have a question from Councillor Finson.
The same as Councillor Moffat. I just wanted to say a few things. And one of the things was that I would say if you want to go to the public, that's fine, but we're probably going to, like Daryl says, get 30, 30, 30 or 50, 50. Those who want are the ones that have. And the only thing I would say about that is only have people who pay taxes in this area be the only comments we care about are people who are here, not people who are from away that are making money off of the properties, like Daryl said, that the public is paying for, because I think it's becoming a real problem. It's bigger and bigger every time I hear about it from my constituents. So I would say it's okay to go to the public. I think I'm okay with that. But I was looking at the Bracebridge one as a good example. They're now allowing rentals, and you have to get a permit. And I see this in the detailed list we have here, but it's $500. The fine is $500 if you break the rules. To get the permit is $200. They're renting the places up here for anywhere from $6,000 to $60,000 a week. They're not going to care about those fines. It's just not enough. But anyway, my input was, I think it's okay to go to the public. I just don't think it should change our minds if we decided that that's what we want to do. But as to Taylor's point, is that the more the more you reach out, the better off we'd be at the end. I do agree with that comment. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. And I think one of the things we've learned is whatever request to the public has to be more robust than just, do I want or do I not want? What are the elements that you may or may not want in a rental policy or not? So I think we do need to know more than yes or no as we go forward. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. I have to disagree with your last comment. It is pretty black and white. There's no gray there. You either want or you don't. And I agree with Councillor Finson in that, if you're going to do a permitting system, which we're not broaching tonight, I understand, it has to be substantial. Not only should it have to cover the extra administration it would take it within Seguin to administer any kind of a permit or licensing program, the additional cost of bylaw enforcement, which would require heavier numbers, and we should have no subsidy from our general public for a licensing program for those who would wish to rent. So I'll make that quite clear. There should not be any burden on our existing residents for any kind of program going forward. I have to agree with Councillor Moffat. We've been there with a survey, and I note on page 100 of our agenda, it states meet or exceed previous engagement campaign that received 320 comments. Okay, we've been there, done that, okay? We're past that. Our ratepayers are now expecting us to make the decisions to their benefit overall, or at least for the benefit of the majority. And it's time that we acted to have this pushed off to the fall of 22 and deal with it in 23 and get a program instituted and up and running by 24. I don't think that's acceptable. That is foot dragging, and I'm not with that. One more comment on page 101, timelines. Fall of 22, winter 23, retain township solicitor to prepare a bylaw. Been there, done that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Coles.
Thank you. Most of you know where I stand on this issue, I think, but it is a complicated issue, and it's even more complicated by some of the input we've had. Some believe that not all our residents are in favor of renting, and that may be the case, but it is our residents and property owners who are responsible for the rentals that have been occurring. These aren't outsiders. These are people that own property in Seguin. There may be the odd outsider who never resides here, but most of the people who are currently renting live part-time, at least part-time. I can give you an example just to make my point. I have a neighbor who doesn't use his cottage in the summertime, so he rents it in the summertime. He occupies it in the wintertime because he snowmobiles and cross-country skis and does all those things. It's rented out all summer. He doesn't put it on Airbnb, so he's going under the gun. No one knows. I know, but because he's my neighbor, but he's one of many that operate this way. The more we legislate, the more we're forcing the underground economy and forcing these people to operate this way. I'm in favor of licensing. I think it works. You were able to support our environmental interests first because we can regulate what a license means and how they get their licenses, to how many weeks of the year they're allowed to rent, and all of that stuff. If we close it down, it's not going to go away. The bylaw won't take it away. It's already a bylaw that says they shouldn't be renting, and it exists. And again, I make my point that I'm here because I rented first and got to like this part of the world. I have a neighbor up the road who rented from me. I own a cottage that I rented out on a year-round basis. I didn't live in it, but it was beside me. And he now is a full-time resident here, a good tax-paying resident. Licensing is the way to go. I don't know that we need to do a whole bunch more surveys. I honestly think I would support it if we want to, but I honestly think that we need to license and put some limits and restrictions, or get some, people want to rent, let's get an income out of it. I agree with Gail that the fines aren't stiff enough for people who are disobeying, and it's the only way we're going to assure that these places aren't overpopulated as many places are, so that if it's a 3-bedroom place, that accommodates what, 6 or 8 people max. That's kind of the rules that have to be in place. But just so you understand clearly, it's not just rental properties that are causing problems with our lake and the septic systems. One weekend, not long ago, I was out on the lake with the boat. A bunch of kids ran out of gas. We towed them to their place. There were at least 25 kids drinking beer and having a party. It was a weekend party for all these kids on a property that was owned by their parents. They weren't renting. So this is what occurs. So that's equally as bad as any renter group coming in and renting a property for a weekend if it's done right. So I'm all for licensing. I don't think our bylaw is effective because it's just too difficult to manage. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy to manage licensing, but at least there's an income against which we could hire people to help us monitor the rental situation. So said enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Just to reflect back on this particular subject matter, I could tell you that this started December 22nd, 2017. We, council wanted a short-term rental study done, and it came to council on February 19th, 2018. Now, we don't have to, at this stage of the game, have to recreate the wheel. If you guys all recall that we have spent to date tens of thousands of taxpayers' dollars to Leo Longo. And what was Leo Longo hired to do? He was hired to write a bylaw, which he did, and council did not implement the bylaw. I'd like to see that bylaw again. I'd like that bylaw to come back to council so we can look at it and either vote to go ahead with it or not. So I'm not going to say about if I agree with Councillor Moffat suggestions or Councillor Cole's suggestions. I'm just saying that there's been a bylaw written, and I want it brought back to council so we can look at it before we even get into spending more money and additional thousands of dollars. So I'm thinking, and starting over again, this needs to be resolved. And I think in the meantime, that we continue enforcing our zoning bylaw. And because right now it works. And looking at the bylaw that we spent tens of thousands of dollars on, and we haven't implemented it. So that's what I suggest.
Thank you. Councillor Fellner.
Yeah, I mean, I think from my point of view that to rely solely on the on basically a zoning bylaw or something administered under the Planning Act is fine to continue with until we find a better solution. Myself, I don't have a problem with going back to the public. As long as it is our public. To Councillor Vincent's point, I would agree with her. I think that if I remember correctly, the bylaw that was, or the draft bylaw, or it was it was a work in progress. got mired down because whatever the final solution is, you want to make sure that it's enforceable and you can get immediate results. Not just long-term results in 2 or 3 months, the way that we've been operating now. So I don't particularly have a problem going back to the public. I'm not so sure the first time they were polled or the time where we've been in power where the questions were really the best questions in the world. Maybe perhaps we could come up with a better set of questions. In all likelihood, maybe we're going to get the same results. Maybe we're not. I mean, it's hard to say. But the landscape's changed since COVID, and it's an issue that isn't going to go away, and it's actually getting bigger. And we have to have a stronger tool to either regulate it or fight it, one or the other. So I think once we come back from the public, we'll know the answer. Thank you.
Thank you. I see hands up from Councillors Moffat, Osborne, and Collins. You've all spoken once on this issue. If you would like to speak a second time, it must be on something different than you've already said. So I would ask you to keep it brief. Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I would say the decision of the discussion tonight was about going to the public. It has nothing to do with licensing and anything else. So I don't want the public or ourselves to get sidetracked down into a rabbit hole. So I think you've heard from everyone in terms of public versus non-public. I think it's made a 60-40 split. So I'll leave it at that. But that is what Taylor's report is talking about. And I think that's where we should be directing our focus and our attention on tonight.
Thank you. You're correct. The council vote tonight will be, do we go for public consultation and be transparent, or do we not? That's all we're deciding here tonight. Councillor Osborne, something new?
I just want to agree with Councillor Fellner. That is the issue before us tonight. Decide on more public consultation or not. But I did want to respond to a comment by Councillor Collins about our history legally and our draft bylaw. And that draft bylaw, just for members that may not recall, suggested that it would be a tool to implement stronger enforcement than our existing bylaw had. So it was still an enforcement bylaw to deny the operation of rentals.
We need, if we're, so, excuse me, Councillor Osborne, I'm getting comments from the clerk that we cannot talk about legal counsel or legal advice unless we move into closed. So I'm going to cut you off.
Well, I'm responding, with all due respect, Mayor, I'm responding to Councillor Collins' comments. I'm not mentioning names. I'm just suggesting, I'm talking about a draft bylaw.
It was only discussed in closed, I'm afraid. So we can't discuss it in open.
Okay, so I guess that Councillor Collins shouldn't have brought that up then. Is that what you're saying? Or should I?
If you wish a closed meeting, we can move into that later.
That was my question. It shouldn't have been brought up, period? The draft bylaw?
I'm going to ask the clerk to reply to you.
Where the difference is coming in is we have to be careful about, yes, there was a draft bylaw, but then when we start to get into legal counsel comments on enforceability and things like that, that was enclosed, and that's where you have to be careful of revealing those discussions.
I had no intention of doing so, clerk. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no further hands up, so I would like to call for a recorded vote on whether we go to public consultation or not. I believe in transparency, and I do encourage both Valerie and Taylor, when we create the questionnaire, we need it to come back in a data format with robust information. And I would like to suggest that council have an opportunity, not in a meeting, but for a couple of days, once you're working on that questionnaire to let council take a look at it before it's actually sent out. And I do agree it should go to our taxpayers, whether or not they are permanent, seasonal, or non-resident owners, they're taxpayers. Okay, the clerk has said we have to write the motion. So the motion would be to direct staff to conduct public consultation. Is the term? Okay, so the current motion is to direct staff to conduct public consultation on the issue of short-term rentals with Seguin residents and ratepayers. Could I have a motion for that motion from Councillor Coles?
I will so move.
Thank you. And Councillor Fellner, will you second that?
Yeah, I'll second that, Mayor.
Okay, so is there any further discussion? Councillor Osborne?
Yes, Mayor. If the council does decide to go to public consultation again, how do the lake associations, how are they treated? As one vote for each association or the multiple votes of their membership? How does that work?
Taylor, can you respond?
I'll do my best. And Valerie, please jump in if you would like to. I think the idea would be is we'd send out the notice to the lake associations, which would include a link to Let's Connect. Every property owner or anyone wanting to participate would have to make a Let's Connect account. It's my understanding Let's Connect does track where people are from and their address, so that would help alleviate some of council's concerns that we've heard tonight. So the lake associations would not be representing votes for all their members. Their members would have to sign up and go through the process themselves to participate.
Thank you. So that's each individual will have an opportunity to participate. Councillor Coles.
Just quickly, could we put a time limit to this instead of just being open-ended? So when it should end?
I believe on page 101, there's a schedule of when the timelines are proposed. And I would say that that is achievable. Jason would like to weigh in here.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I think the schedule on page 101 remains in effect if council's comfortable with that, and in keeping in mind that while this is one project, we have multiples on the go and there are many moving pieces of the organization. So we want to make sure that we're able to do this in a fulsome and robust manner. So we would be comfortable with the timelines that have been presented in the staff report and are confident that we can achieve those timelines.
Yeah, and I am in error by not pointing out that there was an addendum received related to this item. It is in the official correspondence and in your addendum. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. So am I safe to assume then that the consultation would go through right to the fall of 22. That's what page 101 says, the fall of 22 before that consultation ends.
Go ahead.
Is that September, October, what month? I agree with Councillor Coles. If we were to go with this consultation, there should be a definitive cutoff on the consultation. We have that ability, I'm sure. Thank you.
Your worship, I'll jump in just briefly, and Taylor, Valerie can correct me if I'm wrong, but the report, and as we discussed, would see public consultation take place through the summer of 2022 with in the fall, and I would suggest that the fall meaning September, October, where in September, we would collect the data and bring it back and advise council. And then, we're cautious and understanding of the municipal election this year. So obviously in October, there won't be any decisions being made. So we would come back towards the end of the year with a recommendation based on the results of the feedback received through the summer. So in short, we would engage through the summer months, July, August, collect the data and report back in September, and then take our direction from there.
And council wouldn't do anything at that point, so it falls to 23 with the new council, correct?
The new council would be
That's 6 months away.
Sorry, the new council would be sworn in and active in November, and we would have business meetings in December, where if there was to be direction provided, we would certainly be able to do that.
We're talking winter 23. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I see no further questions. So could we have a recorded vote?
Councillor Moffat.
No, I do not approve of going to the public for a public consultation. Thank you.
Councillor Collins.
I abstain.
Councillor Fellner.
I approve.
Councillor Finson.
Yes.
Councillor Osborne.
You're muted, Councillor Osborne.
Nay.
Councillor Coles.
I approve.
Mayor McDermott.
Yes to public consultation. So that is carried. We will be talking to the public about short-term rentals, and I applaud Taylor and Valerie for taking this on. Let's get real data this time. Thank you. That's carried. Okay. I believe Tom's coming in, is he? Okay. I have a motion that as per staff report number PW-RD-2022-011, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve the awarding of tender number 2022-011 winter sand stacking and stockpiling to A. Miron Topsile Limited in the amount not to exceed $177,120 plus applicable taxes. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I still move that motion, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Coles.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Tom, do you have anything to say about it, or anybody have any questions for Tom? Nope. All in favor? Thank you. That's what happens when we get robust staff reports. I have a motion that as per staff report number PW-RD-2022-012, the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby approve the awarding of tender number 2022-012 highway course salt supply to Windsor Salt in the amount not to exceed $56,794 plus applicable taxes. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne?
So moved.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Fellner.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Thank you, and that is carried. He has to move it, okay. I have a motion that the Township of Seguin Council does hereby receive and support the Township of Horton, May 3rd, 2022 resolution requesting the federal and provincial governments to provide more funding to rural municipalities to support infrastructure projects related to major bridge and culvert replacements. And further, Council directs that this resolution be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, the Provincial Minister of Finance, the Federal Finance Minister, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, and the Township of Horton. Councillor Moffat, could you move this, please?
I so move that motion, Mayor. Thank you.
And seconded by Councillor Collins.
Second.
All in favor? Is there any discussion? No. I think we are all seeing costs go up, so we hope this hits some people and they pay attention. This is a discussion, okay, and I'm going to ask you to talk about the airport. So you have a request in front of you on page 118 for the Parry Sound Municipal Airport Commission.
Excuse me. Thank you, Worship, members of council. I'll be rather brief on this, but the Airport Commission has sent a request to both Seguin Township and the town of Parry Sound seeking an extension to the current loan that the town is offering as part of the airport and business park expansion project. At this point in time, the project is tracking to be a little more expensive than we had originally anticipated, I would suspect, based solely on a number of key factors, being the price of oil. Commodities across the board are up, as we see in almost everything out there today. Because the request is coming to two municipalities, my recommendation to council would be to just refer this back to staff for further investigation and further discussion, and to bring back a formal report at our next meeting where we can have a better understanding how both partners are going to work through this and give council a fulsome report on how best we recommend you move forward.
Thank you. And this, I just want to remind people that this is separate from what was discussed at our last meeting. This is cost increases related to expensive things like asphalt and oil and gas. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. So Jason, you're suggesting we defer this or put this off, this request at this point? And if it comes back to council, I would like to see a detailed analysis of the increases. That's a huge amount of money. I don't know what percentage of the total project that is, but it's got to be 10% or thereabouts. I would like to see some justification in detail. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, Councillor Osborne. We have received a detailed breakdown from the engineer, and that is one of the reasons I would suggest that give staff a chance to put together a fulsome report and bring it back to council.
Was there any cap on this project at all, or is it open-ended, Jason? I guess it's open-ended.
I would suggest that it's not open-ended, but we are subject to inflationary increases on things such as the oil index. And today, that oil index is probably up 35-40% from where it was at the time of award of this contract or at the time of submission for the grant funding back in 2019. So there's some fairly significant pressures that at the time wouldn't have been foreseeable. But again, that's the reason we need to take this back. And again, with there being two partners, there's a bit of work to be done here.
Thank you. Thank you. Understood.
Thank you. So that you have what as council in agreement that it goes back to staff and that we would have the analysis and staff recommendation, hopefully in 2 weeks at the next council meeting. Okay, so that the direction you need. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Council reports. Councillor Finson, why don't you start from PEI?
Okay. Hi. Hello, everybody. I had a DSAB meeting this month before I came down here, and I forgot my notes, but it was a really exciting meeting, and I forget what the exciting thing they're doing is. I'm kind of mushy right now, but yes, it was a really good meeting as usual. I've had a lot of calls, a lot of contacts about summer stuff and roads that are going on, but I did have a contact from a nice lady who was giving away free masks and things like that. So we were able to get masks and sanitizer and wipes free from her. She was able to get rid of all of them. So she was very appreciative, and they're going to be going to like Pumpkin Fest and the antique car show and maybe the market. So that was really, really nice. And other than that, it's really cold down here. It's 10 degrees today, just so you know. So, anyway, yes, it's quite chilly. I was walking on the beach and I was getting a hail in my face, but I was determined. Anyway, that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Collins.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Well, I did attend the luncheon at the airport on the 7th, wishing Nora Miller luck in his retirement. And right after that, my computer went down. I got zapped with a power failure. So I did not make it to the DSAB meeting on the 9th. Excuse me. And up until that time, moving ahead, I've just been dealing with constituents' concerns. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Councillor Fellner.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Since the last meeting, we had a museum committee meeting last week. We're down to just one student this year. We couldn't get any applicants for the second position, but things will proceed. I think last year we only had one as well. At a library board meeting, which I was unable to attend. I was out of town for the airport barbecue. I did attend the Rotary 3-pitch Friday this week. It was and Saturday. It was nice to see an event back. The event back on. It was extremely well attended. I forget exactly how many baseball teams there was. I think about 30 or something. I think they sold 400 fish dinners. Certainly super event. Shows what a small community can do, when they all come together. And well attended. Our new MPP elect said a few words, opening words, well received. We've also kicked off with Park to Park. I've been working a fair amount with our Director of Recreation, working hard trying to come up with some strategies to perhaps capture the low-hanging fruit on our new trail plan Park to Park has gone ahead along with the South Seguin Snowmobile Club and instituted a cutting program on the trail. So we've had a crew out there all of last week working east, cutting back all the vegetation that's, overgrown and then primarily in the rock cuts. It's making a big difference. A little later on this week, another crew is going to start in after them and start restoring the ditches and noting where we need culverts and pulling stumps and getting it in order. So things are moving along pretty good there. It's a good time of the year to do it when it's dry. Just trying to engage some different stakeholder groups to get their input of what they'd like to see in facilities and, to ensure that we capture the needs of all users there. So that's about all I have to report. It's been a busy but quiet type of couple of weeks.
Councillor Osborne.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I've been fielding a number of questions from people, of course, about Seguin's stance on short-term rentals, of course. I've also had comments and complaints about shoreline development going on in our lake. I don't know what's happening on the other lakes, but we have some active files right now in Turtle Lake where people are continuing to break the rules. I attended a Rossville nursing station meeting on last Monday, and two things there. There are concerns about security. The fact that some out-of-towners have been floating in the area looking for illicit drugs, and there was concerns about security. So we had discussions about secure locks, possible closed-circuit TV for the staff there. As well, they're basically not taking any walk-ins anymore, and they're going to try to publicize that through the township via our website to inform the public as to what's going on and what the availability is. And thirdly, we're short of committee members. I think we're down to 5 or 6. There should be 9. So they're going to be soliciting for more members for the nursing station advisory. And lastly, I had a question. It was brought up, I think, at our last meeting that there's a wellness meeting on the 28th of June. And the parties weren't sure whether that was going to be a Zoom or an in-person or open to the public. Maybe staff could inform me on that. Thank you.
It is a Zoom meeting and it is at 7 p.m. on the 28th.
Thank you.
And it's open to the public.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Councillor Coles.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, it's been quiet, thankfully. But on June the 7th, I met with Tom McLeod at a constituent's residence over concerns to do with his swamping of the front of his property. It primarily was as a result of a plug culvert. And I must say, Tom was very proactive and we'll have it resolved expeditiously. This morning we had a finance committee meeting with Belvedere. And again, I want to report that Belvedere's finances are again in good condition, in spite of the fact that they have not been getting as much from the municipalities as they used to. And I want to thank Jason and his bylaw staff for resolving an issue on Bruce's Trail, which is a private road where a resident had been digging trenches to slow down the traffic. The problem's resolved to everybody's satisfaction, and the residents are all very complimentary to the way it was resolved. So thank you, Jason, and your bylaw staff. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Mayor. Back on the 7th, variety of things happening that I'm responsible for on the Muskoka Watershed Council. Needing to get stuff ready for board meetings, and we're doing some grant funding and agreements with the province. So there's a bit of work there. Also attended the barbecue on the 7th. On the 9th, attended the West Wind Forest Stewardship Project in connection with the Muskoka Watershed Council regarding beech trees. It's run out of Prairie Sound here, and I'm the Muskoka Watershed Council representative. On the 9th, also on the 9th, we had the Foley Rec Committee meeting, and I just want to remind everyone that we have a Canada Day celebration on July 1st at the Foley Community Center starting at 10:30. We are having a barbecue. We're going to do some kites. Maybe we'll get some wind like we had over the weekend. Everyone's invited. Donations are appreciated. So I look forward. We're trying to line up a singer for the Canadian National Anthem that we've done before. So I know Councillor Coles attended the last time we had this event. So it's been, I'm going to say it's been 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, I think 2019. So I look forward to having, similar to Councillor Fellner's comments, good to see we get some events back on the calendar, and hopefully everyone on this council staff and the public will be able to attend or get out, and we'll have some good weather. On the 16th, we had our, what I would consider to be our semi-annual Integrated Community Energy and Climate Action Plans meeting at IceCap. It was, we had a short presentation from the County of Simcoe in connection with its waste system. And one of the key messages that came out of that was diversion, whether it's organics being pulled out of the garbage, whether it was grinding up shingles instead of putting them into landfill. They actually grind them up and sell them back as for pavement. So there's a lot of helpful information. Obviously, Forrest is sitting in the room. He is co-chair of IceCap, and him and I had a follow-up conversation on Thursday afternoon on it. And I've had some conversations with Jason, Dominique, and Tom as well. And just from a staff's perspective, we were really pleased. We had all 9 members from our IceCap, and I would like to report that Shawanaga is now a member of IceCap, so we have our first Indigenous partner. We had 2 mayors, 3 CAOs, 5 councillors, and 6 other council staff, as well as 4 partner organizations. So it was a really robust meeting. We always do a roundtable and a lot of ideas, one including both greenhouse gas and reduction of costs as a result of working from home. And it was it's a neat little calculator, and good way to maybe start some policies with regards to that. In terms of resident meetings or discussions, similar things. We've had some public work matters, roads, both seasonal and short term. Got some zoning matters that Jason and myself and Sean, Chief Carroll, hopefully will try to get resolved. Some lake activity building permits, and a little bit on official plan review. So that's just looking at my notes. I think that's it, but I'm hopeful that we can look at some diversion in connection with our waste system in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Sounds like you're gearing up for the arrival of our seasonals next week. June 7th, I did attend the Airport Commission, and following that, the farewell barbecue for Norm Miller. June 8th, I was at the Rosso Lake College powwow, and Valerie and Dominique were also there. I think we learned a lot. They had everybody dancing. Also on June 8th, there was the 9/11 AGM meeting, which was very brief. It's administrative passing of motions, pretty much. On June 9th, I attended the seasonal opening of the CNIB Camp for the Blind on Lake Joseph. Excuse me. And they are well on their way to raising funds to make it a year-round camp. So that will be a bigger employer and a bigger kind of presence in Seguin if they can operate it 12 months a year. June 10th, I attended the YMCA Employment Symposium, and they've got their hands full, especially with the influx of people from the Ukraine in terms of housing, appropriate employment. Many of the people coming to Parry Sound are professionals and had no idea where they were coming. So they've got their hands full. June 11th, several of us attended the Joe Bissonnette funeral, which was an incredible tribute, excuse me, to Joe. Excuse me. Read my last two. Excuse me.
While the worship is just getting her throat cleared up there, on June 12th, and I have to read her reading, I apologize. Something to do with the Air Cadets?
Yes, it was their annual review of the Air Cadets, and it was really impressive at the Bobby Orr Center.
And on June the 18th, she attended the Rosso Lake College closing ceremonies.
Yes. Thank you. My apologies. So, okay. I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the board and committee minutes and agendas and the correspondence as presented on the agenda and the addendum for June 20th, 2022 meeting of council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne?
So move, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Fellner.
Second that, Mayor.
All in favor? Thank you. I apologize. Something went down the wrong way. And I have a motion that bylaw number 2022-074, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of meetings of council, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
So move your motion, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn this regular meeting of council at 6:07 p.m. to meet again on Monday, July 4th, 2022, or at the call of the mayor. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move that motion, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Coles.
Second that motion.
All in favor? Thank you. So we'll see everybody Thursday at the barbecue, and happy Canada Day.
Thank you. Good night,
Thank
all.
you.
All right.